Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are up and running here as we're sort of awaiting the beginning of spring training to really begin. And obviously, we're going to have some combine information next week on the sports side. Luke will be in Owings Mills. He will be in Sarasota in his spirits. But blogging and talking about all things Orioles. He and I had a great visit here this week. And we're sort of ramping back up from Crab Cake Row, brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with Window Nation, as well as Jiffy Lube Multicare. There were 78 conversations. Almost all of them are up at Baltimore Positive right now. And you probably heard them during the course of the week, and giving to great causes and eating crab cakes and crab soup. It was a wonderful little February idea. Leonard Raskin returns as our defending champion here, just in time to have a President's Day weekend where we have a tax-free Maryland. I know that's in your dreams. All we have to do is just drive 40 miles up to Delaware. You have some property over there, but how are you? It's your favorite weekend in Maryland, isn't it?
Doing great. Love the tax-free. Love the tax-free. I always wonder to myself, what is the purpose of the tax-free weekend? I just don't get it.
It's an incentive to go out and save a few bucks.
I get that. It's an incentive to go out and spend because merchants make a lot of money when there's not sales tax, when there's no tax. So question is, if it's good for a weekend, why isn't it good for a week? If it's good for a week, why not a month? And if it's good for a month, why not a year? And if it's good for a year, why not forever? So taxes are an impediment. The fact is that people don't do things. And when taxes are incentivized, they do things. So if we want people to spend, we should reduce taxes and people will spend more.
That is a good point. And you make a point, but I guess the 4 days of taxes lost in all of this, if you times that by 366, we get an extra day this year anyway.
Yeah.
You can add that in. But at that point, I wondered, do we go broke? I said to my wife,
lots of states don't have sales taxes, don't have income taxes. They don't go broke. They get it other ways.
Listen, we're doing a shoot interview here. It's like a wrestling interview, but I'll just say this. When I drive around now and I rent a car, no matter where I am, all of the toll booths in the country are gone now. And for 50 years, they screwed up traffic. They stopped everything to throw a quarter in the basket, then 50 cents, then $1, then $3. If you go through the Lincoln Tunnel, it's $18 or whatever it is now, right?
Now they just have flashers that catch your Easy Pass.
If you don't have an Easy Pass,
then they get your license plate.
Well, right, but when you rent a car, you have to pay the fee. The fee comes later from the state of California. It feels like I didn't have, they call them freeways in California, but they're not. I said to my wife, we're watching. Well, this will bring in the Journey concert at the CFG Bank Arena.
Sure.
So fake Journey plays, and they come down and do their thing, and they sang Lights when the lights go down in the city, and they showed San Francisco.
Fake Journey.
Fake Journey. It's not real. Yeah, I call it Fake Journey. It's not real Journey. She says to me, do you call all bands without, if Toto was missing 2 members, is that fake Toto? And I'm like, well, Steve Lukather's there. So, it feels real to me. I won't call Rush fake Rush if Dave Grohl goes out and plays the drums. I just want to be clear on that. But Lights came on, the song When Lights Go Down the City in San Francisco, and they showed the Bay Bridge. They showed the Golden Gate, but they showed the Bay Bridge. Yeah. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I drove over that 3 weeks ago when I was in San Francisco.
Yeah, $20.
No. The best thing ever. I have never been able to get into San Francisco or out quickly because that bridge had a toll booth that just was legendary. If you want to go to Oakland, it may take you 2 hours.
Right.
And you could take the BART and be over in 8 minutes. Once I figured that out, I never rented a car in Northern California again.
Right.
But I drove across the bridge and there was no traffic. And then I said to my wife, they've taken away but I got the bill literally on my desk from National Car Rental, and they charge you, and then they charge you fees on top of it.
A fee to charge you. You're right.
So I don't like that.
It's a racket.
All the taxes are a racket.
If you're on the East Coast, and you're going somewhere in a rental car, you can take your Easy Pass.
Right.
You just hold it up to the windshield when you go through the area, and they'll charge you that way. And
that's all part of Ted Leonsis' we're all one big city from Boston to Richmond, right?
That's right.
That's what we are.
Right. It's just the East Coast thing.
Well, before I get to sports with you or anything current, because you're like Mr. Republican here, and like, and we're not going to talk about politics too much with you this year,
Yeah.
but
We got
the
plenty.
tax part of this,
Yes.
the tax part of this, which tax do you hate the most, and why? And what tax do you think serves a purpose? I mean, because we pay a lot of taxes. You can't hate, but please don't tell me that you think we should never pay taxes for anything in it, because
Nothing. Never. Ever.
the country would never run like that. So,
well,
let's.
It's run in the past. It could run. The thing is, income taxes are the worst. Income taxes are the worst. Social Security second. Income taxes. I have a view on income tax. This is
You're being penalized because you've been successful. Is that what you're saying?
No. This is earnings income tax, right? When you go to work, not a self-employed person as myself and yourself, but as an employee, when you go to work, you are giving your labor, your time, yourself, your body, your energy. And what you get back is pay for that. Why is that taxed? You're being rewarded and
because you're getting to do it in this country. I'm
right.
Just playing a role here.
Sure.
But you get to live in this country. Go to Mexico. Go live somewhere else.
You're being compensated for your slavery. So I think that's fine. It's a fair trade. I give you labor, you give me income. The government has no piece in that. Why they feel they can take a piece of that and decide how much of that they can take is beyond me.
Have you figured out who the first person was? That Thomas Jefferson? Who came up with that? I don't even know who it was, but somebody
I don't know who first came up with it. But we passed it in the 16th Amendment in 1913 that income taxes were legal in this country. Before that,
13 was the year. I don't know the history of it.
Before that, it was estate taxes and tariffs and other things that paid the bills. And if you go up, for instance, you'll see these mansions. I mean, castles. There used to be a show on TV, America's Castles. You could see all these amazing places.
Where is this? Say this again, because you cut out. In Maine. Okay.
New York, Vermont, all these beautiful castles. You can go to Carolina. You could see one there. There's lots of them. They're ginormous homes that these people used to live in. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, whoever. And now they're all museums because the families couldn't maintain them because income tax and estate tax took away so much of the generational wealth that they weren't sustainable.
Well, we can only hope that changes the Baltimore Orioles if we're trying to round this into a situation. It certainly it put the Washington Redskins in really bad hands at one point. The death of a father, right? Like,
yep.
The baseball side of this, I mean, you've been back for a week. You were in Hawaii. By the way, Leonard Raskin's here from Raskin Global. He manages money, bitches about politics, and usually treats his friends pretty well.
Teaches people how to save taxes. That's what it's about.
Well, right. That way we can have more money later on.
That's right. That's right.
I don't want to cheat the government, but I don't want to give them something they're not entitled to.
That's
right?
This is where you're only required to pay what they require, not a penny more.
Well, we heard all along that the young Angelos boys would not be able to keep the team because of estate tax and whatnot with the dad.
Right.
Where are you've been back for a week? For the first time getting back from Hawaii where the team's going to be sold. We talked about you were kind of gone during a pretty weird period of time between championship games and the team changing hands and then the Super Bowl. But for local people in base, what are you feeling and hearing about the Orioles? Because we lived through a year last year where they won 101 games where we didn't talk a lot of baseball for years when they're losing 120 games.
And it's exciting.
Then we started talking baseball. It was exciting.
And this year we have expectations.
I told everybody this when you were gone because I didn't do a piece with you during the 2 weeks when it happened. I was in a state of shock. Like, you were flying off to Hawaii for a week and a half. And I said to my wife, it's like 3 days in, I'm like, I've never really thought about anybody else owning the team because I just didn't want to get hopeful. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like, Stephen L. Miles would always say to me, you'll outlive him. That's what Steve always says. You'll outlive him. And I'm feeling like at this point, maybe that's the case. But the baseball thing here, and I've talked at length with Luke about this because I took last week sort of down after he did Crab Cake Row.
Right.
And I put my head around this. And this is the first time I've had a conversation with you about it. Put my head around where it's going to be 3 years or 5 years from now and whether more people are going to go and what downtown's going to look like and how they're going to spend money. And more than that, the fact that the Bloombergs and the Rubensteins, these really wealthy, uber wealthy people
Yeah,
have been
yeah,
involved in this. And their thing here isn't squeezing 5 cents out of a hot dog. I mean, which they will. And I was at CFG Bank Arena where beers
sure.
are $17.50 the other night. And I'm like,
Oh my
is that
God.
Baltimore? And you're wondering why you can't sell premium anything because people don't want to pay it. It's
Right,
simple. It's an
right.
outrageous. Talk about taxes. It's an outrageous surcharge to
Yep.
get a beer at a concert or get a hot dog at a hockey game or
It's
to
the
do any of that
luxury.
stuff.
It's the price you pay to enjoy luxury.
But it's not luxurious.
Well, it's a
You know what I
choice.
mean?
It's
Like
a
it's not.
choice, but it's a choice.
But it's premium. It's
Yes.
VIP. It's all of that.
Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
baseball experience going to be like? You've been back a week. You've talked to a lot of people, a lot of older white folks as well, who love
Uh,
baseball, who wanted to come back to it, like all of that. Like I keep everywhere I go, people talk to me about it. Maybe it's because I'm
People are
aspirational.
excited.
They are.
People are excited. I think people are tentatively thrilled. Like they're thrilled that it's a Baltimore ownership group generally. They're thrilled that it sounds like they're going to involve local people in ownership and decision making. They're not going to, as Angelo said, we can't keep everybody. We don't have the money to keep everybody. Well, now they got money. And I guess 600 million, as we saw with the Ravens keeping Lamar, and who knows what Bisciotti's going to do this year, but $600 million for stadium improvements goes a long way to let you increase and hold payroll. So the hope is that they've got a lot of flush cash. They're wealthy people. You look at Bloomberg, my goodness, how many millions has he given to Hopkins and to other causes that he cares about? So
I'm wondering what this does to lift a city because I keep thinking about when Camden Yards was built and young people don't feel this and you
can't
feel it and
remember.
I
Right,
feel it.
right. Can't
We
remember that.
remembered it being the gateway arch.
It was the
And
place.
it was everybody had to come. Everybody needed to spend time at the harbor. If you were going to come downtown, you were going to bring the kids and go to the science center. You're going to, and the affordability of all of that has changed 30 years later, where a baseball ticket was $6 or $8. But you can still get into a baseball game very inexpensively. The
Yeah.
team's going to be good. The new owners are going to be incenting lots of folks to come to the game that haven't been, that have never been, that haven't been in a while,
That
or
haven't been
don't
in a
go as
long time.
often, or only
That's
go
right.
once a year. How do I get you back more often? How do I get you watching the games and get you engaged?
Yep.
But my bigger picture, when I start hearing Bloomberg and these other guys, is that they want to fix the city. And that's, the Baltimore positive thing. And I get grief about it being, every time there's a shooting, every time there's a car, and that's every day, there's
Every
something
day.
that happens, right? That we can't be positive about Baltimore. Baltimore could never be lifted again. And I'm thinking to myself,
Nonsense.
that's nonsense. And it's going to take smarter people than John Angelos. And it's going to take more
Well,
vested people, quite
we
frankly,
talked
than Steve
about
Bisciotti.
yeah,
People
we've
that live
talked
here,
about
people that are here.
community involvement. They need to have community involvement. They need to get the politicians, dare I say, to pass laws that are going to make the city safer. I mean, there are lots of people that will not go downtown. I think we talked about a year ago or so. One of the selling points to the VIP, if you will, season ticket, PSL, whatever they called it, experience at CFG was you can get a parking pass where you drive into the arena parking lot, walk directly to a door that brings you directly into the arena, and you never have to step foot out in Baltimore City around the arena. That was a selling point, and that's terrible.
I did that on Sunday night, by the way. We went to dinner at Jan Koch. Wendy Bronfine, I'll have her on this week in Curio. We went out to dinner. Mike Rosenfeld had us down. The Oakview people invited some people to see their sort of newest suite. It's called the Vault. It used to be the Hall of Fame behind at the backstage in the backside.
Okay.
And it's a big playroom with Papa Shot and Donkey Kong and Mike wanted me to talk about it on the air, so I'm talking about it on the air.
Yeah, sure.
So did Lowell. But it's for business. A man like you has some means, wants to a holiday party, wants to do something. Adele comes to town, John Mayer, and you're like, oh, I want 20 tickets. I'm going to take it. My friends do a Christmas night, do a party,
Yep.
Do what I did at the for Dan Roderick's 2 months ago, where I bring all my friends and have a room. They have those kind of rooms now at the arena where they never had those before. Sort of like, honestly, it reminds me of like a Vegas suite without the beds. and without the view. Like it's sort of like a fun room with a bar.
Bottle service with the big
Yeah,
bottle
but you
service.
step right from the arena back into it, and you would
Yeah,
never know it's there. It's a black door. It's not marked. It's called the vault. Nobody knows it's there. It's literally not a marked room, but it's part. So I drove down and did that the other night, and
yeah,
my first thought was this. We're getting the speech during halftime from Lowell about, hey, we'd like to get the Under Armours and the McCormicks and some bigger businesses here to buy suites and do all that stuff. And I know other arenas have full suites, like you
sure.
get out of DC, the suite's been there with the bathroom
Yep,
in it, like all
yep.
that. This one isn't built that way, and that's okay, but people have experience. All I could say to the guy, he was like, Lowell, and I know Lowell for a couple of years since he's been here. He's like,
Sure.
hey, we're trying to get more people to experience this. If you get the word out, talk about it on the radio if you have a radio show. So I'm doing that. But I'm thinking to myself, I walked out into the bowl of the arena and I looked around. It was packed. It
Yep.
was packed for fake Journey. No offense to real
Right.
Journey, but for fake Journey at $100 to throw, $120. My pal Stan went, paid $80 last night, bought a ticket, walking up. So I'm thinking to myself, this is a really healthy thing the CFG Bank people have done and the Oakview people that whatever Stevie Nicks was there Saturday night,
Yep.
Sunday night it was this, next week it's going to
Andrea
be
Bocelli on Tuesday.
you're going to Bocelli, right?
I
Yeah.
am. He was sick and had to postpone after the one of the football games this year. It was a Sunday all day downtown for us. We had the game followed by Bocelli in the evening. We were going to sneak a hotel room in between to change clothes and be dry. And then we got a notice the day before that he was sick and canceled. And so we're hoping Tuesday night we'll have that experience and get to see him.
What do you think when you go to that? I mean, because I thought about it for the first, I don't know what, in my sobriety Sunday night that I'm there, I'm an invited guest because I always buy my tickets. Everybody knows I go to concerts. It's weird for me. I mean, Roosevelt offered me a ticket. I'm like, dude, don't you have somebody else you can offer that? I mean, it's the first part of I'm like, give it to somebody that really will go crazy because I go to concerts all the time. He's
Right.
like, no, we want you there. We want you to see this room. The
It's
guys
great.
know you. So I'm like, great. And I went down there, and all I thought about was there are a lot of people here,
It
and
was
this
packed.
building has improved so much.
Yeah.
The sound has improved so much. The bathrooms have improved so much. The ingress and egress. The fact that I drive down there at 6:30 and I can't get across Baltimore Street because there's just people coming to it like moths to light.
Yep.
And I'm thinking,
Yep.
this is my old girl. This is the old chicken box. This is the old Baltimore Civic Center. And it has been completely brought back to
Redone.
life. Completely
Yeah.
brought back to life. I mean,
Yeah.
we're less than a year into this, Leonard. We're talking about it like it's been here forever. It's been
They're
here
selling
9
tickets,
months.
selling tickets to everything. That's what they promised. They promised the best shows, the best concerts in the region, the best sound.
What have you
the
been
best
there for? You went to
Nothing.
the Eagles, didn't you? You haven't been
Nothing.
yet.
I haven't been. Bocelli will be the
What?
first. I have not been.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm talking to you about this.
Did not, have not.
You
This
didn't
is it.
tour it. Did you tour the arena
I
before?
did tour. I did
Okay,
go
so
in.
you saw it.
And I was all about buying the entire package of VIP seats, access, parking,
You're a
everything.
Hippodrome guy, though, right?
Yeah,
You're a Hippodrome.
but that's
ticket holder.
8 shows, 8 shows a year.
Right.
So we do that. But this was almost an event or two a week. I mean, this was everything. This was the whole season of everything CFG Arena had to offer. And I was game. There were a bunch of shows I wanted to see, and it meant you could go to just those shows. You could go to everything, and the everything option was outstanding. The pricing was right. The seats were good. The amenities looked good. Everything about the new experience looked good. As I said, they sold the fact that you could go into the parking lot, never have to be outside. I thought that was good. You got weather, you got crime, you got Baltimore, but they can turn that around. And they had a contract to sign, and it all looked good, Nestor, until the contract said in 3 different places in big, bold type, it was a either 5 or 7 year commitment to buy, which I had no problem with. I was all in for the whole thing that they were going to be able to pull off, and I was going to do it. In big, bold, 50-point font, it said, "You may not resell tickets to any event, show, blah, 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 blah."
Out. You're out.
Or social media, any ticket reseller sites, yada, yada, yada. Or they have the right to cancel your contract, and require payment in full for the remainder of the contract under the terms of the contract.
That's a little punitive.
And I said to the guy, this is ridiculous. I'm not coming to everything. Like, I don't want to see Kool and the Gang. I don't want to see Earth, Wind, and Fire. I don't want to see Bad Bunny or whatever it was.
Right.
But I'll buy the whole set, and I'm pretty darn sure that via StubHub or any of those, I could sell enough tickets at enough profit that the shows I would want to see would cost me nothing.
It's a strange, sure thing because, like, the Orioles would love for you to buy a season book, and once you buy them, they don't care what you do with them.
Well, that's exactly
that
right.
would be true of any sports team.
That's exactly
and honestly,
right.
that would be true of any concert. You know,
Well,
if I stick out for Stevie Nicks tickets on Saturday night and I get the flu, I can flip them and get my money back. Right?
But they had it in the contract. So I said to the guy, explain this to me. And he said, it's the artists that make us put it in there. I think it was at Oakview or whatever they're called.
Oakview's the name of the group, yeah.
Right. They require that it be in there, but he said, we don't intend to enforce that. And I said, well, then take it out. No, it's got to be in there. The artists require it, blah, blah, blah. It was in the biggest, boldest font 3 times. 1 time, maybe 3 times. And I said, dude, I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to pay a 5-year, 7-year commitment. And when I resell tickets to whatever it is, you're going to call me up and say, you owe us 5 years of money. And by the way, don't come back. I said, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, this is Leonard Raskin is here. This is an interesting conversation because I think anybody that's listening, if they had the means, they'd love to go to every, but they wouldn't go to every one. They wouldn't go to every Oriole game. I mean, you've had Ravens season tickets forever, and you'd love to brag that you've been to every game. But
yeah, good luck with that.
You went somewhere and you flipped the tickets, right?
That's right. That's right. And it used to be even easier to flip a ticket because you could walk out the day of the game and at least get $20 for it. Now it's all digital. I don't know how you do that. I haven't done that, but I'm sure it works somehow.
Upload to sell, download.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous out on the parking lot.
I'm never a seller of tickets on these. I'm only a buyer.
Crazy. It's crazy.
I've never really listed tickets, and
I've
maybe
listed
I've done
a lot
it
of tickets.
Twice, but
I've listed a lot of tickets, Oriole tickets, concert tickets, extras, whatever. So the fact is, I said no, thank you. But they're trying. CFG made an effort. They stepped up. They signed their name to the arena, and it's a big presence of a regional, local bank. There's not many of them left. And now you've got the Orioles group, and I believe if they come in and they contact and start putting their poundage, not just to get 600 million, not just to develop a little bit around there, but to get the state legislature to rewrite these laws where kids are not able to be prosecuted or even questioned for crimes that they commit, and you wonder why they keep committing crime. If they can clean up that aspect of the city and start to bring people back to the city that live in the surrounding areas, my goodness, it could be the jewel of the area again. I mean, it's magnificent, but nobody wants to go to a baseball game or a football game or a concert where you're walking from a restaurant to the facility and your head's on a swivel. And if you're not concealed carry, you're concerned, you're going to get robbed. It's tragic. And they got to step up into the state and say, this has to stop. And well,
I'm having Wes Moore on. I continue to ask these questions, but I will say this. And this is in the year, and maybe this is the good news for the Oakview group or for anybody listening in regard to this, who haven't been down to the arena yet.
Yeah.
This is what, like 10 months?
Yeah, they've been packed. It's been packed.
10 months since the first night when Springsteen was there and the Eagles, and you remember it opened on opening day.
Absolutely.
Right? So it opened April 1st of last year. So we're almost a year. We're 11 months into this.
Yep.
I think of how many times I've been to the arena, right? So I saw the Eagles. I saw Queen. I saw John Mayer. I saw Janet Jackson. I can go through. I've been there once a month, sort of every month for all these shows. Every one of them I've been to has been, I don't want to say packed. That's crazy. 94% full. Way more full than any Raven game I've been to.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing it.
Literally. And forget the Orioles. It's a big facility. But every time I go, it feels like man, they're selling tickets, they're selling beer. It's full here. It's not half full. It's not packs of empty seats. It's like it's asses and elbows
Yeah.
everywhere you are in the
Yeah.
arena.
Full.
And I think to myself, that's cool, that's great, but it's something I never envisioned. Listen, 5 years ago, you and I are doing radio. If I would have said to you, yeah, a bunch of guys are going to come in here from California, they're going to bring hot artists, they're going to refurbish the arena, and you watch a year into it, they're going to have full crowds, they're going to have top
Yeah. You're
name.
crazy. You're
I'd say that
crazy.
I've lived here, Leonard. I've lived here my whole life. The
You and me.
Capitol Center came in '73, and
Yep.
once that happened, Elvis and the Beatles stopped coming here, and Led Zeppelin stopped
Yep.
coming here for the most part.
Yep.
You one-offs. Frank Remish has done an unbelievable job of stealing the Stones in '06, stealing U2 in '01. I mean, I can give you the years that these major bands played at the arena, but there was never thought that we could play there. That's
Right.
for Washington. That's for Philly.
Yep.
It's been that way my whole life.
And now that their statement was, we're going to change that. And this is going to be the concert destination for all the biggest and best acts.
Well, then how about football? We lose our football team. We sit here sucking our thumb for a decade. Oh,
Yeah.
they don't love us. They'll never let us in. Mr. Cook will, and we've had football here for a generation. So I
Absolutely.
don't want to hear it can't be done. I mean, when you and I
Well,
were
that's
kids,
exactly
Edward
right.
Bennett Williams was going to take the Orioles and move them to D.C. He
Didn't
never had
happen.
any intention of doing that.
Nope.
He got Camden Yards built. Angelos him and his goofy kids are taking all the credit that he saved baseball here. I mean, Edward Bennett Williams' family would have a lot to say about saving baseball
Right.
for Baltimore.
Right.
But what it can be and what the city can be, I use this as 55-year-old old guy is saying,
And
you're doing something on Tuesday. That's a miracle. I did something on Sunday, which is we went downtown and saw top-notch entertainment in a beaten up, crappy old arena that we made fun of all of our lives, right? I didn't because I always loved it.
Right.
But the baseball thing has been so depressed, and now
It's time to turn that corner.
there's a vision over the top that I can't even see.
Winning and community involvement will change the whole scene. And then on top of that, you've got it's Bramble. You got Bramble who wants to redevelop the Harbor Place area, and all pictures are that that's going to be state of the art. It's not going to be the little shopping centers that it is today. It's going to be a major new residential area, office area, commercial area, and he's a man of the city. He's a man that's done a ton of good in turning around places in the city, and he's of the city.
And they're going to fight with him, right? I mean, he got
course.
the inside job. He's avoiding me. He hasn't come on the show. I don't know why, but I've invited him, and I like, tell me about what you're thinking, because I don't know enough about it. But I know this. They're going to fight about it enough that they're either going to make it bad or they're going to make it good. And I hope that the people that are fighting about it to improve it, to make it better, that all these hard questions that he's not answering from me, but answering from everybody else in the community association,
Yeah.
This is good. This is the way you get
That's
it done.
right.
There should
That's
be
the way
no
it should be.
inside this or that.
No,
This should be talked about by the
doing a
people
big
paying.
job. He's looking to change the entire face of the harbor. And let's face it, was it Roush? It was Roush that did that. How long ago? Let's go back in time.
1976.
How long ago was that a dump? Was that a place nobody would go? And then you got the aquarium, and then you got the science center, and then you got Harbor Place, and it became, talk about a go-to place. I don't think in high school and college, I don't think there was a weekend we weren't there. You know, it was nonstop. It was the place to hang out.
You had movie theaters down there at the time, right?
Everything.
Right. You had the power plant that came to life, and
Yep.
you had Little
Yep.
Italy, and then you had downtown restaurants that existed like
Absolutely.
Burke's and the Prime Rib. But
Absolutely.
you added on the Phillips, and you added on the Mortons and the Roost Chris that came here because of baseball. Roost Chris came
Rusty
right after the
Scupper.
baseball stadium. Well, the Rusty Scupper was an early.
Right.
That was part of the harbor,
Right.
right? And
Right.
the Shard House was part of that on the other side.
Absolutely.
So, but those restaurants all benefited, and they don't benefit. No offense
When
to
there's
the Oak
nothing
Creek Group
there.
or anybody, that if all I did was drive and park on level 6 and try to get the hell out of there before
Right.
separate ways was played.
That's my point.
Right.
That's my point. So Bramble wants to regenerate and rejuvenate the harbor area. CFG is if they can promote going to the shows and not leaving right after or coming from your home to the show, but what's around there, how amazing is that? And a couple playoff games for the Ravens and a home couple playoff series for the Orioles. And suddenly, you turn the corner and Baltimore positive is what we have. And that's what we're hunting for. I think the news the news media, sadly, and it's because that's what news has become, every night is a carjacking, car theft, robbery,
Well,
murder.
my wife puts it on. It creates a lot of fear. I mean, it really does.
That's why people in the surroundings aren't going. And if they are, they go in, they go out. And it's
Maybe
not going to
baseball would
change.
change that, though, right?
Right.
Baseball would be the
Right.
thing that more people go more often, and it's on their
Absolutely.
TV.
It's not once every couple of weeks to the Ravens for 8 times, 7 times. It's 162 games. It's 80 opportunities a year to get downtown.
Well, hopefully by the time Green Day is fake, that we have fake Green Day like 10, 15 years from now, we'll have a harbor to go to and have dinner before we go up to the CFG Bank Arena to see fake Green Day or
walking
whatever it's
up
going to
to
be.
the arena
Right. Enjoying and
to
stopping and getting a crepe on the way up if you
yeah,
want.
and maybe it's just because I don't watch the local news. But when I travel, I got no problem walking around San Antonio. I got no problem walking around Houston. I got no problem walking around Columbus. I got no problem in Dallas. I got a lot of places that I go, and I don't feel anything to walk around outside. And yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye out, but I'm not worried about it yet. In my home city, I don't want to walk around out there.
I'll say this, and I have one last question. Leonard Raskin is here from Raskin Global. You can find him at Raskin Global. You can find him at Baltimore Positive. He manages money, manages the American dream, just got back from a beautiful trip, but is gearing up for all this baseball and all this other stuff.
Getting
I
ready.
drove into the city on Wednesday night. My wife and I went on Valentine's night. We drove into the
Yep.
city to get carry out from our favorite Indian place. We just want to
Yep.
go into the city and we carried out and came home. So we literally just drove in, double parked on a side street on a really cold Wednesday night, run in
Yeah.
and out. On my way in, I got off on Guilford Avenue, which I've been doing my whole life, right?
Yep.
The Baltimore Sun was located on the backside of Guilford. So my car got broken into on Guilford at least 3 times in the 80s, right? So we're talking about 35 years ago. My car windshield got
Sure.
busted in, right? I went down Guilford and, the Sun's abandoned. I mean, it's just that
Yeah.
whole part of the middle part, like where the DAC is and like all that.
Nothing.
And you've been driving through there forever. And there were homeless people living under the bridge for periods of time, under 83 and whatnot. I drove through, and the first thing I saw on Wednesday night when we got off on Guilford and went that way was light. Like where the old Hammerjacks is, where they have the Sunday morning flea market and farmers
Fake
market.
Hammerjacks.
Fake Hammerjacks. Well done. Excellent. I know exactly what you're talking about. As opposed to real Hammerjacks.
Right.
So we went down and all the lights were on. And I said to my wife, I'm like, oh my God. I say, when I talk to Brandon Scott, I'm going to ask about this because I've driven this road for 30 years. They just lit it up. They just put light on, and all of a sudden it feels a little safer.
That's it.
Just perception of a 55-year-old guy who lives in the suburbs now, who lived in the city for 20 years, driving in, and I'm like, they put lights up, and I'm like, wow, that's whatever the broken window theory and like all that stuff is.
Right.
But just having light, or even around the arena, putting up these new Times Square sort of ads and stuff to create light. There's something about that you feel safer in Times Square than you probably are just because it's well lit up.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, last question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You ducked me on this. You have no problem bitching about taxes and
no, go ahead. What's
a good tax? Give me a tax that you're okay with.
So this you'll be surprised by. I think people have it wrong when they say that capital gains taxes should be lower. Okay, when you sell assets that you've held and they've gone up in value, I think you did nothing for that except maybe get lucky or hold it for a period of time. I think you should pay tax on gains accrued on assets rather than on your income. So if you earn
you're
money,
really against income on a fundamental, I'm giving you my time. The government should not be in on that.
My labor is exchanged for
your money. When I take
money.
This money and spend it, you get taxes in any way you want, right?
Sure. Sales tax I'm fine with, but income should not be taxed. I'm just fundamentally opposed to slavery with the government as an intruder.
How many taxes? Florida's a place where there's a couple of states, right, that are
7 right now, 7 states with no income tax, others that are dramatically lower than ours. So yeah, Washington State, Alaska, South Dakota, Tennessee, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Florida, Texas. Yeah, Florida, Texas.
I didn't know New
So
Hampshire was that way.
yeah, I think there's either none or very little.
Okay, I have to talk to my wife
So
about that because her whole family lives there. So but we always hear, move over the state line, save money, and all
Delaware's
that.
less and no sales tax and way less property tax. They still have an income tax. It's just significantly lower.
You and I talked about the difference between you having a beach house in Delaware, which you do, as
Yeah.
opposed to having one on 118th Street in Ocean City.
Yeah, the taxes are a third. Property taxes are a third.
It's just a game changer to literally, if I'm your client, and I am, and I say,
Yep.
I'm thinking of getting a place at the beach, you'd be like,
Yep.
if you buy in Maryland, you're just going to get screwed, right?
Jacked.
Like, oh, and it's just not.
Let's say there's $2 million properties right next to each other. One, the property tax is $6,000, and the other one it's 20.
Times 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8
times
years.
for the length of time you own that place. I mean, what could you do with the difference?
10 years is $150,000.
Just think about how much more
15% of the
prosperous.
purchase price.
Think about how much more prosperous everyone would be if there was no income tax.
But then how does the state operate?
Well, what do you sales tax? Let's do this. If I make more money that I get to keep, do I buy a smaller house or a bigger house? When I buy that bigger house, do I need more windows? Do I need more blinds? Do I need more carpeting? Do I need more whatever? Everything I buy has a sales tax associated.
You're going against your own premise that if you made more money, you'd spend it, which is exactly why they need you.
No, if you make more money, you're only going to do 3 things with money. Here's the thing. People think wealthy people hoard money. There's no such thing. Nobody's got it in a safe. Well, you might have a little bit in a safe in your home if you're Fonnie Willis or whatever her name is down in Atlanta. She keeps money in her house. She keeps cash in the house, but most people don't. But what you do with it is you spend it, and that generates economic activity, which generates more use of money, which generates restaurant tax, sales tax, ticket tax, whatever taxes there are. And that money flows through the economy. That employs more people. That means we have less unemployment, less food stamps, less welfare, more people working. Okay, we could have a low tax, maybe a flat tax, maybe. But here's the deal. We got a lot more money. Now, the other thing people do with money is they invest it. When you invest it, you create the economy, you create opportunity, you create jobs, you create business. And from that, our taxes generated revenue from that. And the third thing wealthy people do with money is they give it away. We're the wealthiest, most generous nation, not wealthiest, but the most generous nation on the earth. And when you give money to charity, you help people and organizations do things that otherwise couldn't get done. So people don't just hoard the money. And I hear from people, oh, well, they buy boats. Yeah, well, somebody makes the boats and all the equipment and material that goes on the boat. And
I know the
tax.
gas goes in the boat, and they're getting money on that.
They're getting money on the gas. So, but
can you imagine having a boat in California? Oh my God!
My point is, all these other things that the government taxes, Florida, entertainment, hotels, etc. You have a choice whether or not to spend your money on those things. Your income is you go out and work because you got to eat. So I'm against an income tax, and we'll do this another time.
I love it. It's good.
I'm wholly against Social Security, taxation of Social Security. We can go that another session.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that before April 15th. Leonard Raskin's here.
You got it.
We didn't know we were going to get into today, but I like the can of worms we got into. I hope you enjoy Bocelli. I hope you have a good experience.
Looking forward to it.
I hope you don't think about how much tax you paid on the ticket.
It's just part of the, but that's a choice, part of the gig.
Well, I went to California a couple weeks ago, and I took a picture of the gas prices, and I'm like, ooh.
It's heavy.
It is heavy duty, but we got a tax somewhere. There's no tax on this program. We're free of charge.
There you go.
We even have, and I had a long conversation 2 weeks ago with one of the best conversations of the week was with Chris Corman, who is the sports editor of the Baltimore Banner.
Okay.
We had that conversation at your favorite place, out of Pappas, over some crab soup, and we were just talking about journalism and talking about reporting and all of that stuff. So,
real stuff.
We've had important conversations around here. Please go check them all out. And we've done a lot. You mentioned charity and giving money away. We've given 78 places.
Fantastic.
At the front of Baltimore Positive.
Fantastic.
Military, children, women's, boys, orphans, dogs, cats,
that's
birds.
What society's,
we even did a bird sanctuary.
That's what society's all about. Helping each other instead of relying on the government to do it for you.
All right. Well, look, next week we'll get into baseball. You and I will
There we go.
We'll
We're
have a
getting
full
closer to
slate of
opening day.
grapefruit
30,
activity.
38 days till I think it is opening day, something
I'm
like
even going to put the crab cake tour back together. Our friends at the Maryland Lottery, in conjunction with Window Nation, 866-90Nation, 0% financing for 5 years if you're buying windows here this month, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multicare, all coming together to put us out on the road. We had a great week 2 weeks ago, had a great Valentine's Day. It's been a lovely February after losing an AFC championship game, if there is such a thing, thinking about baseball, knowing baseball is a month away, and also just spring is about to spring in 2024. We're having a good time around here. I am Nestor. He is Leonard Raskin. If you need to invest money, if you need advice on money, please find him out at Raskin Global. You can also find him at the front of BaltimorePositive.com. Stay with us.